Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, and I am your host, your pilot, and also in certain respects your confidant, Mr. Warren Hayes. And I thank all of you for joining me right here tonight, right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, because this is the Raw recap show for the May 6th edition, oh boy, of Monday Night Raw. And wow. Are we back? Am I back online? Have I returned to... I think so. I think I have returned amongst you all here on the live show. Okay. Yes, I do believe I'm back. Hooray! Everything is back under control. No biggie. We're fine. I was just about to say that perhaps some of you have noticed a location change as opposed to what happens usually, right? If you're watching this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, there's certain typical parameters that I'm used to operating in within my other location are a little different here. But, the show might be on the road a little bit, so there may be some technical little issues, some little snafus like that I'm going to have to try and, that I thought I had dealt with. But hey, you know what? The important thing is that we're all here. The fact is that we're all here. See, Maven Glean in the chat, she's enjoying the lovely plant here in the background. Isn't it lovely? And it's actually flowering a little bit. Just a bit. But, and, since it's spring and summer's coming, it will become more flowered, I guess. I don't know. It's not my plant. But the point is, the important thing, the most essential thing, is that you're all here and we're all going to settle in and watch. You're going to watch me talk about Monday Night Raw here, and I want to thank you. Honestly, I want to thank everyone for bearing with me this evening and bearing with me in general. Because again tonight, there's a full chat room of wonderful, excellent people who are joining me live right here, such as Kristen Ashley, who just blesses us with her presence. Isn't that right? We have Blaine Mendoza, the world's most handsome mod. Joe Anthony is here as well. We have the world-renowned historian who's here as well. Good to see you. We have Colton, aka Blue Riot, is here. How you doing, Colton? J.S. Brown is here. Maven Glean, who I've already spoken of. RJ Krasinski is here as well. Good to see you, RJ. Metal 2006. Michael Stepney. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, but yeah, Robert Larry's here as well. That's fantastic. Jay King just popped in as well. Folks, we got a full pack house ready to talk about Monday Night Raw. But just before we get into it, remember, folks, tomorrow's Tuesday. It's SmackDown Live. I do this live again at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And well, let's just hope that we have a better evening of Raw than tonight. But you know what? Overall, Raw wasn't really that bad, but I'm going to talk about that. And maybe you're not watching this live, right? Maybe you're not watching this as we're doing it. Perhaps you're watching it later on YouTube. Perhaps you're even listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because the Mr. Warren Hayes Show can be found on most of your beloved podcast apps, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Podcoin, Himalaya. It's all there. You can check those out. You just type in Mr. Warren Hayes and you can watch it there. And I say it every week, but it bears repeating. If you're watching this on YouTube, give it a like. If you're listening to this on a podcast application, why don't you go ahead and just do whatever is required to show appreciation. It's a review, a subscribe, a like, whatever it is. Those things really do help out a tremendous deal. Helps the good word of the Mr. Warren Hayes show get spread out. And I really do appreciate that. So if you wouldn't mind, that'd be greatly appreciated. And what else would also be appreciated is if you came to join me on Wednesday nights for my 205 Live NXT UK recap show, which I do every Wednesday night over on FightFLSelect, Fightful's premium service. So you subscribe, starts at $5 a month. You get a whole bunch of extra podcasts. You don't just get my podcast, folks. You don't just get Warren Hayes talking more about wrestling. You also get Sean Ross Sapp talking more about wrestling. You also have Steven Jensen, who talks more about wrestling. And he actually talks about non-WWE programming, so that's really interesting. So check that out. And if you can, because I do it live there as well every Wednesday night on FightFLSelect, so do check that out. But here's something also exciting, and you're seeing it right here, right now on the screen right there. Kristen Ashley started an exciting brand new project. It's called Bell to Bells. It's a brand new women's wrestling website dedicated to covering the extraordinary world of women's wrestling. And she launched the website today, Monday, May 6th. She launched it today, and I'm a part of it. I'll be developing some content, some audio content, some video content for the site as well. But there's a ton of super talented people that have been aggregated to work on the site and write about women's wrestling. We have Anthony from Smart to Death who's in the chat as well, and Anthony is he's a part of the writing staff there. You also have Joe Anthony, who's part of the writing staff as well. We've got Tom Colhue. We have Harmony Cox. There's so many fantastic, talented people who are going to be there to write passionately about women's wrestling. And I'm very proud of Kristen for all the effort and everything she's put in to build the site. Super excited that it's launched today. I am super honored to be a part of it. And you guys should go check it out. It's at Bell to Bells. That's BELLTOBELLES.com. Bell to Bells. That's the site where you will be getting the best women's wrestling coverage that you can find anywhere on the internet. Everyone else is just a pretender at this point. You can trust me on that. And you can follow on Twitter at Bell to Bells as well. And there you go. There you go. Go check it out. That's going to be a hell of an adventure. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm going to be popping up some content there as well. There's going to be a bunch of us. So please do take the time to check it out. Kristen in the chat says, if you hate the name, Warren came up with it, but Kristen, darling, you decided to run with it. So we're 50-50 on that one. All right, guys and gals. Are we going to talk about Monday Night Raw tonight? I think I'm going to have to take a sip before we start because that show was, well, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It really wasn't all that bad. But the bad, or the nonsense, really did stick out. And we're going to start by talking about it straight off the bat here because we're going to start talking about it right now. Because there's room to talk about. Because it starts with Vincent Kennedy McMahon coming to the ring, and for he tries to be his jubilant self, the sort of exuberant Vince that we all got to know in the late 90s, but he's just not the same man anymore. He's older. He doesn't have the same level of energy. And no, this is not leading into any sponsorship reads, trust me. But he comes to the ring, and then, and then Roman Reigns interrupts him, right? Because Roman Reigns had announced that he was coming to Raw because he had unfinished business. He had some kind of unfinished business to handle on Raw. And for some reason, he's above the superstar shakeup. He could just like move around and, however he likes. So he comes over. Vince, says, I have the Cincinnati police waiting backstage. If you try to Superman punch me again. And I like the fact that Vince says, if you try to Superman punch me, not if you try to attack me, if you try to assault me, I'll get the cops on you. No, if you try to Superman punch me, I'll get the cops on you. So he, basically, look, they chat a bit, and basically Roman says, if you keep being an asshole, Vince, but that's not exactly what he says, but that was his intention. He says, if you keep being an asshole, Vince, I'm going to come here every Monday, right? I'm going to have to come here every Monday. But then so then Vince says something to the effect that, this isn't going to happen if I do this. We're going to, it's going to be chaos, it's going to be anarchy. We're going to open the floodgates, and then it's going to be ridiculous. And then Daniel Bryan's music hits, and he comes to the ring. Now, Daniel Bryan, as far as having Daniel Bryan around, I'm okay with that, because I think it's fair to say that a lot of us were a little worried since we hadn't seen Daniel Bryan since WrestleMania. We were all kind of worried that he was perhaps out with some sort of more serious injury that WWE just wasn't talking about. So it's good to see him there. And then he comes out, then Kofi Kingston comes out, and then we have SmackDown people in the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what is this? Are we basically saying here right now that the SmackDown roster is more entertaining, is more interesting than the Raw roster? Because right now, you have your top 3 SmackDown guys in the ring, and the audience is pretty excited about it. They're pretty excited about Kofi anyway. They're excited about Daniel Bryan. They're excited about Roman. Warren, don't start trying to editorialize here. Everyone was excited for this. And then there's this promo just made some really sharp left and right turns. I didn't quite get what was happening, what was being told, what was going on, but all of a sudden Vince McMahon says, I have a brilliant idea. Here's my brilliant idea, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a wild card rule. And basically, and I'm wrapping this up with what I understood, okay? Basically now, every show, on every Raw, on every SmackDown, there is a possibility for 3 wrestlers to switch brands and appear on the other brand for a night. Now, I am all okay with trying new stuff out, okay? I'm very much okay with giving new ideas a chance. Because as far as we go, as far as we as wrestling fans go, we like things to not be too conventional, right? We like things to not always be stale, and we want things to be mixed up. That's what we ask from WWE. Just try new things. So when they try new things, I'm always kind of weary to just go in and like, that's what a combat airplane looks and sounds like, by the way. Because this guy looks like, you can tell I've been on an actual battlefield, right? Sure. So I try not to go too hard on it, right? So So when Vince starts talking about this, I'm like, well, this is interesting at first, because I'm like, well, okay, this is a possibility to get fresh matchups. Because at some point, one of the problems that we do live with the brand split is that once everyone has fought each other, we get into a loop, where it's like, oh, this again, oh, we're getting Braun and Dolph and Drew against the Shield again, or we're getting Dolph and Drew against Dean and Seth again, and we're getting Roman and Braun and Dean. It's like it's always this same circle eventually that happens. So at some point, I'm kind of like, okay, well, this isn't bad. This isn't bad. But then Vince announces the matches that are going to come out. It was because Drew McIntyre comes out. And the matches that are announced are basically WrestleMania rematches where we're getting Roman versus Drew. I'm like, And then the main event is Kofi versus Daniel Bryan, who are two SmackDown guys. So your main event of Raw is actually two guys who are on the other brand. And this is essentially the main problem that we have with WWE, is that you give them the credit, the benefit of the doubt, where you're like, well, this might actually be interesting. This could be used in interesting ways. And then the first night they pull it out, they do exactly where you're like, well, this is not what you should be doing. You should not be giving away a SmackDown main event on the other brand show. Have Kofi fight anyone else. Have Kofi fight Baron Corbin. That would have worked. That would have been fine. But what was the other? Why would you just go ahead and put your two SmackDown guys, take a SmackDown main event, put it on Raw? That just doesn't make sense to me. I really did not like how confused and slapdash it all felt. And honestly, this wild card rule is slapdash and put together just like that. And to me, this is ultimate proof that the superstar shakeup was botched. That it was that they messed it up, that they did it, and then afterwards they realized, so there's no more tag teams on SmackDown. All the big protected women wrestlers are all on SmackDown now. We've been moving people around for the past 5 months between brands, and now everything was moving freely, and now that we're tightening the ships again, and now that we're making sure that no one can jump around anymore, well, everything seems a little unbalanced. There is no one who can make a proper case for WWE being able to plan in advance. They just can't. And we have, again, we have some more concrete evidence right here that proves it. It's just nonsense what happened tonight. Just tossing everything that we're building. Is like, well, we fucked up, so we're going to do a wild card thing between the brands. And it weakens the brand split. That's the thing, is that it doesn't help the brand split, it weakens it. Because there's no, then it's like there's no real exclusivity. And it's not going to get exciting. It's going to be like, ooh, who from Raw is going to be on SmackDown? It would be exciting if the brands were already very hermetic, were truly closed upon each other, and didn't leave anyone navigate between each brand and would be in a competition mode, or at least a competition that we as fans felt really exists, that doesn't just exist in Vince McMahon's head, brand supremacy, that only exists in his head. It doesn't mean anything to us fans. If WWE took the time to create two strong, viable brands, shit like this would matter, and we'd be excited for it. Now, we're just like, it doesn't matter. Last week, Gallows and Anderson changed brands out of the Superstar Shakeup. 2 weeks after the Superstar Shakeup was done. What's the point? What's the point in the wild card rule in this situation? Can you imagine if we really had a really strong, closed SmackDown Live? Same thing with Raw. Once we get to Survivor Series, Survivor Series then could really become the big cross-promotional show, the big let's mix it up brands show. That would be really, really exciting. Then we'd get into it. Then be like, okay, yes, these are indeed matches that we don't see the rest of the year. But now everything's porous. I don't know. Like I said, when I started off, the brand split, not the brand split, excuse me, the wild card rule, words are hard, has the potential to keep things interesting and create interesting matches week after week. Just keep the brands moving around. But you really have to wonder, what was the point of the Superstar Shakeup if we're doing this? And there was really no point, because everything just got messed up. I want to say hi to CM Phil, who's in the chat as well. And everyone is talking about, well, not everyone, but people are talking about basketball, and I can't discuss basketball. However, Anthony from Smart to Death has said that the club, Gallows and Anderson, made a dope debut on the main roster. That is true. As Blaine says, many moons ago. That was some time ago. Maven Glean has a question. She says, I have a question. See? Would the wild card rule include NXT? That'd be neat, wouldn't it? But it probably won't. And you know what? Let's keep it that way. Let's just keep it that way. The world-renowned historian says, do they have basketball in Canada? You know what? Smart guy, tough guy. Basketball was actually invented in Canada. It was invented by a Canadian. Check out your Wikipedia pages, man, before you start checking that nonsense. I actually used to watch basketball a lot in the 90s. I really, with the... Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, and then Michael Jordan popped on. That was the era of basketball that I watched, and then I eventually just stopped. Kristen Ashley is accusing me of having edited the Wikipedia page, to say that a Canadian invented it. Those are lies. This might actually be considered slander. Anyway, if we're coming back to this very tedious opening segment, and by the way, it'd be really, really interesting if WWE once every 2 weeks started Raw with a match. It wouldn't be so tiresome every week to start with a promo, with a Vince McMahon in the ring, with some kind of interview. But the thing that made it doubly tedious this week is that usually after the opening promo, we get our match. We cut to commercial, back from commercial, we have a match. Now, the promos continued. AJ Styles comes out, And he tells Vince McMahon, what the hell are you doing, Vince? Basically, what everyone was thinking. What are you doing, Vince? I spent all these years on SmackDown Live, and you're telling me that now anyone can just go to Raw whenever they want, come between Raw and SmackDown whenever they want? What's going on, kind of thing. And AJ, again, weird promo. He's just pissed at Vince for having Roman over and saying because he's Seth's best friend, and he says maybe I should go to SmackDown Live tomorrow with 2 friends, and then Seth comes out, and then basically this all leads to a tag team match. This leads to a match where we have AJ Styles and Seth Rollins versus Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin. And here, I'm telling you guys, I'm sitting back and I'm like, wow, okay, AJ Styles and Seth Rollins in a tag team? Holy smokes. I mean, these 2 guys they're rivals. They don't get along. They have a match coming up in 2 weeks, a big title opportunity. AJ Styles, he's really intense. He wants to win the title. Seth Rollins wants to defend it. How can they coexist as a tag team? You put them in a tag team together, and they're supposed to defeat their opponents, but they don't like each other. They're currently feuding with each other. I don't know if I can take that kind of creativity. The match starts with Seth getting a drop kick on Baron Corbin, and he begrudgingly tags AJ Styles in. Begrudgingly. Styles eats a huge shoulder block by Bobby Lashley and a drop kick. Styles and Rollins, commentary points this out, whether they like it or not, are working well together. But they're working well together, whether they like it or not. They both hit double pescados to the outside. Well, actually, Seth hits a pescado on the outside. I think it was on Lashley. Whereas AJ Styles hit a flying forearm. Back in the ring, Lashley kicks Seth down, covers him for 2. There's some heel tactics that follow by the heels. And then Baron Corbin comes in. He beats Seth up on the floor, gets back into the ring, and hits the main event cravat. Rollins hits a blockbuster then and hot tags Styles in, who hits his combination offense, diving forearm. Lashley gets out of the Styles clash. AJ goes for the phenomenal forearm, but Corbin distracts AJ Styles, and Bobby Lashley spears AJ right through the ropes to the floor. That was a crazy bump. That's the kind of bump where you hope everyone is okay, because it was pretty nasty. Much respect to the boys on that one. A springboard something by AJ Styles gets... by the way, no, after this, just before that, Bobby Lashley hits an enormous back body drop on AJ Styles. Styles made it look so good. Made him look like he was flying into the air. So this is where the springboard something gets interrupted by Baron Corbin in one of those golden gloves punches that he has. At least it's not his finisher. Rollins eventually gets the hot tag, dives onto Lashley on the outside, then runs back in and then sling blades Corbin. He's a house of fire. You know what? Consistently, Seth Rollins, a fantastic hot tag. His hot tags are always dynamite. Seth basically hits an enziguri on Baron Corbin, a super kick. He calls for the stomp, but it doesn't happen when Styles accidentally phenomenal forearm Seth in the face. And instead of just standing around and being, look, dude, I'm sorry, as they usually do, and then have a shoving match, Styles like, nope. And he just strolls out of the ring and lets Baron Corbin hit the end of days on your boy Seth for the big win. Main event, Baron Corbin gets one up on the Universal Champion. So is he next in line for a title shot? I would say so. This was a good match. I thought this, as far as put together a tag team match like this with the stupid will they be able to coexist thing, which has become predictable at this point, because someone's going to mess up towards the end of the match. Someone's going to slap each other or accidentally bump into each other. Well, here was an accidental phenomenal form. And the big question, right? Was it intentional or was it an accident? Ooh. You know what? There's one thing, though, one positive that I'm enjoying out of this. Getting some heel AJ Styles back. Getting some Bullet Club AJ. That's refreshing. I'm okay with that. He's done his babyface thing. And I kind of have the impression that AJ I think he's kind of itching to get a bit of an edge back as well. World-renowned historian says Rollins is probably pound for pound one of the best guys between the ropes in wrestling history. I'd have a tendency to concur. We'll see where his career takes him. He's still got some years on him. Joe Anthony says either Corbin's next in line for a title shot or he wins Money in the Bank. I kind of want him to win Money in the Bank again. Because on one hand, it'd make everyone on Twitter really mad. And on the other hand, it'd just be really, really interesting to see him have the briefcase again. And then have him fuck up his opportunity again. I think that would be fantastic. I want to say I had Sports and Things shows. Says we need the club back. And Blaine Mendoza says, where's the incentive to coexist anyway? And this is an excellent point that Blaine here points out when they do these matches where it's like, will they be able to live together throughout this time? What's the point? Why would they do it? Like, if AJ Styles is turning heel and he's getting like that little edgy edge, why wouldn't he just be like, nah, man, I ain't doing it? Is it just because the boss ordered it and you have to do what the boss says? Sometimes I wish, and I know WWE don't like it, but sometimes I wish they would just bring the money component into it. It's like, it's a payday. You do this, you get, I'll add on an extra $15K to your paycheck. So then the heel goes like, well, since I'm getting paid, There we go. I want to say hi to Shane Haas and Thomas Middag. Middag. It's in the chat as well. Welcome, guys. Next we have Sami Zayn, who comes to the ring, and he's doing his critiquing gimmick still. And guys, I want to know if you're in those of you in the chat right now, let me know. And leave a comment as well. Let me know what you all think at this point of Sami Zayn's criticism type gimmick guy coming out and pointing out all these problems. So Sami Zayn comes out and he says, he comes out and he says, well, what do y'all have to complain about tonight? And I'm like, Sami, really? You know what we have to complain about tonight. And he's cutting the same stuff that he's been cutting over the past, since he's returned, basically. And the audience actually starts chanting boring. And I can't say I disagree. But quickly enough, Braun Strowman's music hits and he comes down to chase down Sami. Sami runs like hell, but Braun chases him backstage. Sami tries to get out of the building. He can't. He gets cornered by Braun, who eventually catches him and then tosses him into a dumpster. Braun starts walking away from the dumpster, but then he hears the familiar sound of a large motor vehicle, heavy machinery, not the tag team, but actual like trucks. The familiar timber sound, beeping of a truck backing up. So he sort of, instead of going back into the building and walking away, he sort of like looks around the corner, and there's the actual dump truck, the garbage truck that's coming over to pick up the dumpster. He walks over, but he doesn't walk over. He sort of turns around, looks that the truck is coming, setting its prongs into the slits. You set your prongs into the slits, and then starts to lift the dumpster, and Braun's like, and he actually goes, he just shrugs it off and he goes, leaving Sami Zayn to be compacted into a garbage truck. Sami Zayn is dead. Folks, he should have stayed away and stayed in Iceland or outside that castle in Glasgow, or he's dead. Braun Strowman killed the guy again. Sheesh. And everyone's okay with it. I mean, later on in the evening, they recap the event. They talk about it again, where it's like, and their commentary started being snide about it. Well, you know, and then he dumps them in the trash, and there's no updates on Sami Zayn's condition. No one's like, is he all right? Has he been transferred to a local medical facility? We'll have further updates on WWE.com. No. It doesn't make sense to me. Poor Sammy. I even tweeted out. I tweeted out a memorial to him earlier this evening. Rest in peace, sweet prince. Samworth, Zayn. My God. What is wrong with people? I want to say hello to Bob Aruski, who's here, who's joined us. Fightbot, who's new. I think it's the first time. Good to see you. He says, Fightbot says, first Braun chased Kevin Owens backstage and put him in a porta potty. Now Braun is chasing Sami Zayn and putting him in a dumpster. Well, I guess when you look at it that way, there's a certain level of consistency. But, you know, worst case scenario for Kevin, he maybe got a bad case of E. coli or something. Sammy's been crushed. Josh Almeida, welcome to the chat, says Sami was good the first couple of weeks, but now it's a typical copy and paste Raw segment from the previous week. That's exactly how I feel. World-renowned historian hot take: Warren thinks Michael Cole sucks. That's not a hot take. that's pretty much, that's what a lot of people feel. Blaine says Sami died for our sins because he kept coming out week after week telling the truth. Braun committed murder tonight. And JPQ, is JPQ here? I don't see JPQ. Why is everyone calling out for JPQ? He doesn't show up. He didn't show up. Oh, Fightbot is Dolphin Ziggler. Wow. Welcome, sir. Joe Anthony says, I don't know about y'all, but I'm really excited for this Braun Sami feud. Last time they feuded one-on-one, they had an amazing last man standing match. And Sports and Things shows says Carlos, by the way. That's his name. We chat on Twitter a bit. Says, can Braun be prosecuted? He should. Pretty sure being compacted in a dump truck is not part of Sammy's, is not included in Sammy's contract. Next, we have Lucha House Party, who defeated some jabronis. That ended with Kalisto hitting the Salina del Sol, Grand Metalik diving elbow, and a shooting star press by Lince Dorado. And that's pretty much it. So for those of you who think that the Lucha House Party are jabronis, then this confirms that they're not, right? Because you can't have jabronis. You can't have jabronis defeating jabronis, because I think when jabronis fight jabronis, it creates like a vacuum in time and space, And I think it just, it just absorbs all reality. It's like Googling Google. You just can't do that. So obviously someone is on top here. CM Phil says, so is Sami going to come back as the new Undertaker? Like he comes back in full Undertaker gear, but he still bitches about everyone shitting on stuff all the time. I hope he comes back next week and he's like, well, did you all enjoy last week's segment? I heard certain people had problems with me dying. I don't know. That'd be funny. And no, it's metal. It's not. It's not orange vanilla Coke. I haven't found it anywhere in Canada. And I even went to Walmart, and usually that's where you can find, like these limited edition things that you can't find like in convenience stores around here. I can't find it anywhere. So heads up, if anyone wants to send me a case of vanilla orange Coke, DM me. All right. And apparently, Anthony and Kristen both think that orange vanilla Coke is great. So there's nothing I can do right now. And no, I'm not moving to America just to drink orange vanilla Coke. There's got to be a better reason to move to the United States. Next, we have a match for us. No, actually, even before that, there's Naomi, Dana Brooke, and Natalia who are backstage, and they're pissed because they got scented invitations from Lacey Evans telling them to come to the ring for her match. And basically she's saying, for them to wear proper attire and stuff like that. And then they get pissed. Who is she telling us what we can or cannot wear? And I'm like, man, I really wish sometimes, not sometimes, I wish a lot that WWE could write properly for women. Because I can actually hear the conversation, It's like, a writer comes up to Vince and says, "Hey, we have this idea, for the women to get angry at Lacey Evans." Wow, what do you got? Well, we were thinking that they all want to be a number one contenders. No. What do women get angry about? Well, they get angry. They're wrestlers, so they could get angry because they're not getting their opportunities. And Vince is like, no, they get angry because they don't like being told what to wear. So have Lacey tell them. Lacey says, put on some nice clothes, not your trashy shit, and they're gonna get pissed because they're women. And the writer's like, okay, sir, I don't understand how women work. So basically that's a thing that happens. But honestly, like, why couldn't it just be Lacey Evans is just talking shit to them, and then they're like, yeah, you want us to come to the ringside? We'll come to ringside. Anyway, so we get a match. We get Ricochet versus Robert Roode. And Ricochet's Money in the Bank spot is up for grabs here because apparently Robert Roode was really, really good a couple of weeks ago, and Ricochet feels very insecure about his spot. He wants to be a good guy. He wants to be a charmer, a chum, a buddy, and he wants to give Robert Roode the opportunity to prove, or he wants to have an opportunity to prove that he deserves his Money in the Bank spot. What a hero. What a good guy. Roode early on nails Ricochet and sends him to the outside. He tries to ground Ricochet, who battles back, but instead Roode hits a big short arm lariat. A Rainmaker, covers, but only gets two. There's someone out there that when you call a short arm lariat from anyone else than Kazuchika Okada, anyone else, you call a short arm clothesline or short arm lariat a Rainmaker, someone out there, some purist, like, no, it's not a Rainmaker. Yeah, it is. Roode slingshots Ricochet, who lands on the second turnbuckle and does a moonsault straight off of it. Some strikes follow. Ricochet runs the ropes, but walks into a spine buster, or runs into it in this case. He gets covered for 2. Some top rope shenanigans follow. Bobby Roode falls off, and that allows Ricochet to hit the 630, and that's the win. So a bit of an out of nowhere win. Robert Roode was pretty much in control here. And you know what, guys? Again, I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again. Roode is in his element as a heel, and you can tell that he's motivated and he enjoys it and he's having a good time. And he's much more fun to watch now than his entire main roster run, because some dipshit thought it was a good idea to turn him babyface. And I like the out of nowhere win here because it just establishes that Ricochet can just pull one out of the hat like that. I'm okay with this result. Quick match. It was fine. Nothing to write home about. But yeah. No, please, chat. No, no one. Please don't meme me saying I don't know how women work. It won't work because I'm doing my Vince McMahon voice anyway. So it's not as if I was saying. And I'm not going to say it so that you don't get me in my normal voice saying it. You people. Terrible. Invite you in my house. My home. My YouTube home. That's what happens. No, thank you, Babaruski. Maven Glean says, the purpose of this match was like a qualifier, but it wasn't because the spot was already taken by Ricochet, but Robert thought he should be in Money in the Bank, and that's why they had the match. That's pretty much it. Yeah, so there we go. So we'll just move along from this match here. Next we have Rey Mysterio, who's backstage. By the way, Miz is backstage and he's in front of Shane McMahon's office and he's waiting for Shane. And we see him again here, and camera sort of cuts away and we see Rey walking with Dominic. We see Heath Slater with his I got kids t-shirt. Says, shaking Dominic's hands. Man, you grew so much. You're so big now. Funny story. I'm at the supermarket, or in the parking lot of the supermarket, and I'm with my son, who is probably 5 years old at the time. I'm probably around 27, and I run into an aunt that I haven't seen in years, like probably since I was a teenager. And it's an aunt that I never really necessarily got along with. Not necessarily, someone who I had a great connection with, because I always felt like she never really talked to me and so on and so forth. But I do bump into her, and I have my son, and she says, "Oh, hi." And she says, "Oh, hi. Wow, look at you. You're all grown up." And I'm like, 27. I'm like, yeah, I'm grown up. And that's really all you have to tell me? There's a point where you just don't say that to children anymore. There's only the all grown up thing. I think 16 is the limit. I think past 16, you shouldn't say that. And besides, don't say it at all. Just don't say it. That's awful. It's not, the kids as they grow, they're not like cattle. You see a cow and it's like, oh, that's a nice Holstein right here. Big and strong and tall, and kids. And wow, you grew up, and you're like, mm-hmm. There's a point when you're a teenager, when your family tells you that, well, look at how much you've grown. You're like, mm-hmm. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that I'm going to carry to my grave, folks. So essentially, Dominic and Rey are talking, and then they split apart. And then you have Samoa Joe walking down the aisle behind Dominic. Dominic doesn't realize that Samoa Joe is stalking him. Now, what's fantastic here is that Samoa Joe is stalking Dominic with the U.S. title on his shoulder. So like he's going around. He wants to be sneaky, psychopathic Samoa Joe. But he's still got his U.S. champion. Championship. He's really happy. He's really happy he won a belt in WWE, folks. He's never letting it go. So now he reaches Dominic after a while, and when we come back from commercial, actually, I'm a little disappointed because he's talking with Dominic. And I'm a little disappointed because I really, really thought that they were going to do something like he's going to kidnap Dominic and it's going to be like another Eddie Guerrero thing. Well, not a paternity thing, but it's going to be like he's going to kidnap him or he's going to, get into his head psychologically, a la Wendy and AJ Styles kind of thing. But no, just sort of vanilla threatened him, but not vanilla. Like it's still Samoa Joe. It's still unnerving and threatening, but I was just like, could have been cool. Yeah, he basically. I thought it might have been leading to something because Joe told him, last week, when you picked up your dad on your shoulders. I thought that you were out there you were embarrassing me. You went out there to make an effort to embarrass me, and you're going to take a message to your father, basically say that I'm looking forward to beating him up at Money in the Bank because we're getting that match, Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio at Money in the Bank. Yeah, I don't know. Next, we have the only women's match on the card tonight. 3 hours of professional wrestling programming, and we had 5 minutes, if that much. I don't know if anyone in the chat has the exact ring belltobell.com, belltobells.com. No, if anyone has the actual time. But Lacey Evans versus Ali Katrina, who was basically your jobber de service. Naomi, Dana, and Natalya all come down to the ring. And Alexa Bliss, who had pigtails, just saying. And Lacey Evans is in the ring and she just stomps the jabroni in the corner. She does her handstand Bronco Buster and then finishes off with the women's right, which is her finisher. It's just a right punch and it's stupid. After the match, she says, civilized guests would have RSVP'd, but she invited all you nasties to see a real classy woman fight, essentially. I got to tell you, the nasties thing, it's kind of endearing. I kind of like it. But basically she says, that they will all come up short at Money in the Bank, and even if they cash in on her, because the man is going to come up short as well. And then out comes Becky Two Belts. It just goes right after Lacey. They fight a bit. They go on the outside, come back in. Lacey avoids the disarmor and rolls away. So yeah. I kind of like Becky and Lacey's segment, last week's segment, more than this one here. I really like the pull-apart brawls, and I think Becky really excels at it. But, man, what a disappointment. We needed 20 minutes. We needed 20 minutes, 25 minutes at the beginning of the show, close to 30, saying that we needed 30 minutes at the start of the show to talk to us about the wild card rule. We needed 30 minutes of that. To set up 3 matches. So we could cut down the women's contribution to this show to essentially 5 minutes. And that really pissed me off. It really bugs me. Because I really do feel that on main roster, WWE is not doing a good job with the women's division. Don't think they're showcasing enough of the great talent that they have. And it makes me worried for the great talent that they have signed up elsewhere, like in NXT, but especially in NXT UK, where they have nothing but A+ women. Nothing but. Toni Storm, Rhea Ripley, Piper Niven is here now. She's Nina Samuels, Ginny, Charlie Morgan, although she's injured and hasn't really been used. Zia Brookside, like she's just full of potential. She's like 12 years old. She'll be fine. I'm exaggerating. Who am I missing? Kaylee Ray? What are we doing? What is WWE doing with their women? It just boggles my mind. I'm honestly very worried with how they're treated. Outside of Charlotte and Becky, it's good that they're building Lacey, but you can also build your women elsewhere as well. And just having Natalya, Naomi, and Dana Brooke share some screen time, and Alexa share some screen time for the Money in the Bank match, that's not building. That's just putting them on TV so that we remember they're there. What are we talking about, chat? Fightbot says the Money in the Bank winner should cash in for custody of Dominic. That would be great. I'm on board for that. Especially since like he's got to be 18, right? Maven Glean says, if I'm being honest, I'm so over Lacey at this point. Yeah, she's growing on me. But I understand why you might have an issue with her. Renowned historian says Becky is the most important female combat sports athlete in the world right now. Amanda Nunes is a close second. Carlos says Raw women's division is a mess and it shouldn't be. Let's not forget they still have Ruby Riott that we haven't seen since WrestleMania, right? Or no, we saw her at the Superstar Shakeup and that was it. There we go. Next, though, we have the Viking Raiders versus Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. And if you ever questioning, wondering if Hawkins and Ryder were transitional champions or not, well, you had your proof tonight. You had your proof right there. The champions got 0 entrance. And while they might have got some offense in on Eric and Ivar, it wasn't enough to keep the Vikings from hitting the Viking experience on Zack Ryder and getting the win. So I guess that means that the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, are getting a title shot since they defeated the champs. But then hasn't anyone defeated the champs? Hasn't everyone defeated Ryder and Hawkins at this point? I don't know. I don't know. Next, we have the segment that saves the show consistently on a weekly basis now. The new episode of Firefly Funhouse. Mercy the vulture, the buzzard, is eating something in his box, and he has he has a distorted, very odd voice. And Mercy is saying that he's having Bray's trying to figure out what he's eating. Mercy's having none of it. He's having none of it. He's got attitude until Bray just dives right in. And we realize with horror that Mercy the Vulture ate Ramblin' Rabbit. The body count on Raw tonight just kept rising tonight was the darkest edition of Raw. Death. Death surrounds us all tonight. It was like the Battle of Winterfell. Without dragons. I don't know. But rest in peace. Rest in peace, Ramblin' Rabbit. My God. Yowie wowie indeed on this one. Mercy says though he was trying to, that Ramblin' Rabbit, he bothered him because he was forcing him to adhere to his bohemian ways. And Bray Wyatt says, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm fine. You know, because when you think about it, you know, you were just looking for a way to express yourself. So this was a way for dismemberment is a way to express yourself, basically. And when you needed a reward, you need to be rewarded for being expressive. So we're going to have a picnic. And there's a bunch of kids. There's like 7 or 8 kids all dressed up in lighthearted costumes, but none of them are smiling. They've all got dead stares. Bray Wyatt is really excited, but the kids are just like, I dig it, man. I love these segments. I really do. Now, I had a theory that, you know, Abby the Witch, Mercy the Vulture, and Ramblin' Rabbit, they were like the 3 big aspects of the Bray Wyatt character. They're like the 3 manifestations of his character. Mercy being like the Mercy Wayans inspired character when he started, when he was in NXT, you know, with the flowery shirts, the hat, when he started that was his inspiration. Then the whole Sister Abigail thing, when he started becoming much more mystical, much more of a cult leader, the Sister Abigail stuff, that's what Abby is. It's that era of his character. And then the Ramblin' Rabbit, I think, is the final era that we saw of him when Bray would have these really long-winded, like in the last 12 months of his career before he got injured. When he started really doing these drawn-out promos that never led anywhere, that were just like blah, 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 and you were wondering where we were going with it. So I think that these 3 characters are representations of who he was. And now he's trying to, and I think Bray Wyatt is trying to divest himself of these aspects of him. So having Mercy chew up Ramblin' Rabbit is like, okay, I'm getting rid of that part of who I used to be. And maybe the Abigail aspect is going to win over. I don't know, but I think I think it could be on to something here. There we go. Next, we had our one of the big WrestleMania rematches here, Roman versus Drew. This was actually a fun match. I thought this was good. Thought Drew had an excellent match here. Drew starts with some strikes early on, but Roman fights back and clotheslines Drew in the corner. But Drew blocks one of his clotheslines and does a belly-to-belly overhead suplex, which does require a certain amount of strength to do that to a guy like Roman Reigns. Drew does one of those awesome deadlift suplexes that he does, where he just picks up the guy off the ground and suplexes him. Because usually they'll do the suplexes with the opponent like already on his feet and maybe jump up a little for extra leverage. But no, Drew just lifts him off the ground and suplexes him, and on a guy like Roman, looks even more impressive. Drew avoids a Samoan drop, but eats some clotheslines instead. But Drew battles back and arm drags Roman to the floor, posts him against the ring post, of course. But back in the ring, Roman suplexes Drew. Roman then dumps Drew over the top rope. The drive-by is interrupted on the outside by a big boot to the face and the inverted Alabama slam against the apron. We come back from commercial, and his Superman punch is countered by into a spine buster, right into a jackknife cover, I should say. What a nice little sequence of moves by your boy Drew here. Covers Roman for 2. A Claymore is avoided, strikes are exchanged, and a headbutt by Drew takes Roman down. He covers him for 2.9. Reigns comes out of a backslide with a big DDT and covers Drew for 2. Drew then rolls to the outside and he interrupts a Superman punch, and drives Drew into Roman, into the steps. He gets him back into the ring, hits a swinging slam on Roman, covers him for 2.9. Drew goes up, top, flies off, and eats a Superman punch for his trouble. Roman covers him, but only gets 2. Roman goes for a spear. It's interrupted. There's some more strikes. They run the ropes, and a spear by Roman happens again. He's slow to cover. He covers Drew, but in comes Shane McMahon and Elias to interrupt to a chorus of boos. Of course, this draws the disqualification. Roman Reigns is your winner, but Elias and Shane McMahon, makeshift tag team. If you've seen the graphics for the SmackDown tag team situation right now, they're in the ring and they're beating up on Roman Reigns, and I'm like, well, they told us at the start of the evening that 3 people would transfer from brand to brand per night. And there we go. We've already got 4. I mean, Shane has been on Raw and SmackDown, so there could be an argument that he's brand agnostic because he's a McMahon. But Elias, he's on SmackDown. He was drafted. What is he doing on Raw? 3 people. Oh, there's a 4th one here. Anyway, Shane runs in to run Shane McMahon off. Elias sets up Roman and he eats a Claymore. And then Shane runs off. He avoids The Miz, but The Miz finds him around his limousine. They beat up, they fight some more. Shane low blows him and he runs away. Look, this was a good match. I think the finish makes sense because it advances storylines, and I'm fine with that. It keeps Drew looking strong. This was a good match. I really, really like Roman and Drew working together. I think they do fantastic work. And I think I kind of like this more than their WrestleMania match. But this was fun. I thought this was really, really, this was a fun time. But basically Vince McMahon after that, like, he's backstage and he's on the phone, right? And he himself is like, well, did I say 3 at the start of the evening? Well, let's make it 4. There's even in the show, it's so chaotic and full of nonsense. This is not like, oh, we're swerving you. We're just mixing it up. No. Swerving us would implicate that to begin with, you would have us have some kind of security blanket, some sort of logic, you know. And then you start swerving us within that logic. Now that it's just random stuff all the time. If you have a foundation that you can shock and surprise us on, that's fantastic. But there's no foundation. There's just nothing. All right, let's keep moving on. Excuse me. Next, we have the Revival, who came out for a match against the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, or Big Luke, which I still feel sounds like a submarine sandwich. Yeah, go to the counter and you order a Big Luke. But the Usos come out. Okay, look, I'm not going to try and build this one. You've all seen it. The Usos put Icy Hot in the Revival's trunks. So, basically, the Revival's penises started to get hot and uncomfortable, and they started doing silly things because they needed to cool their dicks off. Now, I just want to say something straight off the bat. If you thought this was funny, it's fine. I'm okay if you thought that it was. If it procured some form of amusement to you, I'm okay with that. And I think if you've listened to me in the past, you're familiar with my body of work. You know I like my silliness in wrestling. Y'all, if you ever listen to me talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, if you ever hear me talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, you know how much I value Toru Yano. I, unlike many others, feel that comedy has a place in wrestling. But I also like my comedy to be funny. I also like it to make sense, and I don't like it to be gratuitous and stupid, which is what this was. It's not comedy, haha. It's just dumb. To be perfectly honest, crotch jokes don't make me laugh. Especially when it's like, ooh, there's something uncomfortable. My balls were dipped in hot sauce and stuff like. I just don't. It's not funny. And I don't know who this caters to. Kids? Really? You want kids to think about putting their having stuff applied to their penis to make them uncomfortable? Teenagers? If I were a teenager, if I was a teenager watching this, I don't think that one would have thought that was funny. I would have thought it would have been a lot pretty cringe, actually. I don't know what to add. Is it really something? Is it really a sign that the Revival are out or not? I don't care. It doesn't matter. I just think this is stupid. There's got to be. Is it really just Vince McMahon who thought that was funny? Because we've all heard the stories. To Vince McMahon, there's nothing funnier in the world than someone completely clothed being pushed into a swimming pool. That's the funniest thing in the world to him. I don't think that kind of shit is funny. And it's not even a thing where, the Revival are being disrespected. It's not even that. Excuse me. Some very talented, serious wrestlers have pulled off comedy brilliantly in the past. In fact, a lot of main event guys have. Steve Austin, The Rock, Kurt Angle. We're all extremely, extremely good at it. Chris Jericho, Edge. This was just not funny. If you found it funny, all the more power to you, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm happy for you. And just because I'm saying it's not funny doesn't mean I'm right. This is my, it's just opinions. But it wasn't funny. I think objectively it wasn't funny. Then after this, No Way Jose and his conga line come to the ring, and that brings out Lars Sullivan, who takes out No Way Jose and starts beating up his conga line. I think Lars Sullivan is supposed to be the heel. He freak accidents a dude on the barricade. He gorilla presses another guy against the post. And then No Way Jose gets back into the ring after being taken out, but Lars makes little use of him. I am, again, 100% okay with how they're building No Way Jose. They're not building No Way Jose. What am I talking about? The way they're building Lars Sullivan. That's exactly what they need to be doing with them. what they're doing with him right here. They did last week with the Hardys, and they're establishing him as a monster. Credible competition for Braun Strowman. What do they want to do with him? Like, you can't even say, oh, well, they'll put him on SmackDown and we'll avoid fighting with Braun. But even if he does end up on SmackDown, now with the wild card rule, he could end up on Raw just about any time. You see how kind of dumb it might actually turn out to be anyway. World-renowned historian says Lars equals Vader. That's not a bad comparison. That's not a bad comparison, but, I'll just... And I'm not throwing shade at Lars, but Vader was a little better. Vader was better. Bobaruski says Lars equals Snitsky. Come on, Lars isn't that bad. We have our main event, guys. Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. Main event. Your SmackDown main event on Raw. WrestleMania rematch. God. The SmackDown Live guys are in the ring. So there's some kicks early on. Some corner drop kicks from Daniel Bryan. He hits 2 in a row. The third one gets Kofi running out of the corner and delivering a lariat on Bryan. He tosses Bryan to the floor. Top rope dive to the outside. We're back from commercial, and Kofi is in control. There's a monkey flip by Bryan, but Kofi lands on his feet. And then he tries to do it on Daniel Bryan, do the monkey flip himself, but Bryan flips him over, and he falls to the floor. He posts Kofi back in the ring. Kingston avoids an armbar from Bryan, and we cut back to another commercial. Now again, back from commercial, Daniel Bryan dumps Kofi to the outside with a big body drop. That looked so bad. It looked horrible. Kofi's landing, his neck snapped off the apron. That was a nasty fall he took. It was not pretty. Kofi hits a springboard second turnbuckle splash to the floor on Daniel Bryan. Then back in the ring, he goes up top and then hits the splash on Daniel Bryan, who's on all fours. But Bryan eventually gets Kofi Kingston into a label lock. Keeps him in there for a little while, but Kingston reaches the bottom rope to break it up. Bryan then goes to the arm that he's worked on with the label lock. He starts giving him some nice, precise kicks. Kofi fights back, goes for the Trouble in Paradise, but he's met midair with a drop kick from Bryan, who turns around and lands a German suplex with a bridge, but Kofi kicks out at 2. But Kofi, the match comes to an end when Kofi resists the label lock to finally hit the Trouble in Paradise for the win. Of course, this wasn't as grandiose as their WrestleMania match. I think that if anyone had that expectation, you need to check yourself. It was fine. But I don't see what this advances. Aside from just, wild cards, anything can happen. We can have a SmackDown main event on Raw. Wowie zowie. Look, we'll see what happens with the wild cards. We'll see. Because I do feel that there's potential for some fun stuff. You know, there is potential for some one-offs, maybe some long-term feuds if it's done properly. But tonight, WWE debuts their idea and actually do something unthinkable, and that is to put a SmackDown main event on Raw, right? 2 SmackDown guys on Raw in the main event, and then just fuck up the rules on the very first night. Now, the rules are 3 people. It might be 4, maybe 5. We'll see. Let's just see here. World-renowned historian says, I'm sorry, I have no interest in this main event because they put it on free television. Would prefer this to be on pay-per-view. I'm going to peace out. Well, that's fine. And he's wishing me a good night. Thank you very much, world-renowned historian. CM Phil says, best match of the night, but that's not saying much, I guess. It was fine. There was nothing wrong about it. I mean, it is Raw and so on and so forth. It was fine. Personally, I really preferred Drew versus Roman. I thought that kicked ass. I think both those guys work really well together. Well, that was Raw. Again, not necessarily a bad show, far from it, but just so very, very strange. Such a strange show, and a lot of questionable, weird booking decisions that just overshadowed the rest, which is also part of WWE's MO these days. So, I want to thank you all for popping in this evening. If you jumped in live, I really do appreciate it. If you're listening on later on demand or on your favorite podcast application, I appreciate it as well. Make sure to come and join me tomorrow evening, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for my SmackDown live recap show. Guys, thank you all. Thank you all very much for, oh my goodness, thank you all very much for coming this evening, and I will see you next time.